Uh, I'm really proud that you two are here to interview me.
And we bring the heartfelt wishes of the Mountain Oyster Club and Friends of Western
Oh,
Art
that's
and
wonderful.
all the people there who knew you for all those years.
Bless you.
And as an artist member of the MO Club and an Artist of the Year for FWA, certainly one of our favorite sons.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So how did you get started on this thing? Maybe 75 years ago.
No, 50 years ago, I started painting professionally, for a living. Before that, I did all kinds of different things. First recollection of me actually doing art was in the 3rd grade when a friend of my father came over, and all the other kids were out playing. I was in this little room drawing, and he noticed that I drew the tree with the branches instead of kids at that age would draw a lollipop tree. So that was my first remembrance of doing art. But I've always done art, I think. After that, I've, throughout school, high school, grade school, elementary school, I was always doing art.
Were your parents supportive?
My mother was, my dad wasn't. He wanted me to, get a normal job.
How was your mother supportive? Did she do?
Well, she brought me first oil, a paint by numbers test, and she just encouraged me. Where my father would say, oh, you don't want to waste time on that stuff. So maybe I did that in spite of him. But no, that's not true. But I just always loved art. I always loved doing realistic art. I took, the last year of high school, I had 4 art classes. I didn't graduate because I needed 1 more credit. So I had to go to night school, and I took another art class. And I got my credit for my diploma, which I never used. But I always loved art.
Were you well known in high school as a artist?
Yeah, all my art. I had 2 wonderful art teachers, Mr. Strawn and Mrs. Bennett, and Mr. Strawn would let me bring my easel and set up in the back of the class and just paint, and where he taught the other kids, things. And my first time I think I sold any art was in the 6th grade. I would get these Playboy magazines and draw the nudes, and then I'd sell them to my schoolmates.
In 6th grade?
Yeah.
Oh, that's...
But, and then I started liking, that guy that drew all those wild hot rod things, Big Daddy Roth.
Oh.
So, you remember him?
Oh.
Yeah, so I would go to his shows. He'd come to Riverside sometimes, and he'd bring his shows, and I'd talk to him a few times. And I just loved his drawings. So I would not copy him, but he was, really influenced. So then I would sell those. I'd do a drawing and sell them for 50 cents. No, I sold everything I took to school. So the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, there is some of that artwork in the men's room at the Mountain Oyster Club.
Oh, I didn't do any of that.
You didn't do any of that?
No.
Okay.
Jack wanted me to, but I said, I can't think of anything naughty. So.
Well, it would have been perfect.
I know.
Now, when you graduated from high school, there wasn't an art program that you wanted to go to?
Well, I won a scholarship to the Art Center Design because I used to draw a lot of cars for this Jaguar.
Pasadena?
Yeah, Jaguar dealer in Riverside. Whenever Jaguars were so rare, but when he sold one, I would do a pastel of it. And my dad dealer was a friend of an art teacher in school, and so he got me a scholarship. But then I realized that I had to move to Detroit after 2 years of being in LA, that I just didn't want to do that.
Now, that's the same place Tom Hill went, wasn't it?
I think, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It was a top-notch place.
And then I got an offer to work for the Riverside Press. I knew somebody there. And so I went down there to check it out, and there was like 12 people in the basement drawing. And I thought, oh, this is not for me. So I like doing my art for myself.
So you figured out early on working for the man wasn't the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do little art shows in Riverside, and it was so neat when I was, I think in the 11th grade, I would go to this Saturday morning art class, and I was the only man and a boy there, and all the women led me.
Oh,
I felt so special,
So
and they
went to
loved what I was doing too.
You went to high school in Riverside?
Yeah,
Which Riverside High School?
Norda Vista.
There's going to be somebody that watches this that went to that school.
I'll be darned.
There's no doubt about
Yeah.
it.
Well, like I said, last year of high school, I had 4 art classes right in a row. So I just stay on the art class. And I was really good at drafting. It's only 2 courses I got straight A's in. In drafting, I was like 30 drawings ahead of the rest of the class.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I enjoyed that. And that's where I incorporated that into the cars. But then I lost interest in cars.
Because Michael Ewing grew up in Detroit. And
Oh,
he
did you
grew
really?
up as a kid drawing all the new cars.
I'll be darned. But you didn't work for the companies.
No, but I did drafting in high school.
Yeah.
That was.
Oh, I
did
love
a lot of
drafting.
art in high school at the art classes.
Yeah.
I wasn't in that clique.
Yeah.
I did do the drafting.
Yeah, the teachers thought something was wrong with me because I was so far ahead. He said, well, you must be doing a trick or something.
That's a supportive teacher.
Yeah.
Any extracurricular activities of note?
I wasn't too interested in sports. I liked history, but all those other things I didn't care for too much. I got kicked out of typing class because I took the little old typewriter, you slide it, and I slid it too long and it came out and hit the floor. And so she got rid of me.
With that sort of attitude, maybe it served you well
Yeah.
in your solo art career here.
Yeah.
So you left there and came to Southern Arizona for something.
Well, when my first wife and I got married, I worked for this company in Riverside there that did psychedelic posters. So I worked for him. In return, he let me do my 5 psychedelic posters, and we did like 2,000. I built a rack on top of the camper to hold them all. And we just started traveling around the country selling them. Time we got home, I sold every one. And we traveled all over. For 6 months, we lived in that van.
And you had long hair, so
Yeah, long hair and a big ponytail.
and the same beard though.
Yeah, same beard. Well, it was browner back then.
Fair enough.
But, and that's, I always wanted to make a living in art, but I had to do other things. I painted houses for a while. I was a gardener. I I learned how to paint cars to save up money for 3 years to buy the land in Sonoyta, and saved up $1,000 and just started painting. And the first place I showed at was a stakeout in the little bank there in Sonoyta. And I'd selling them for $25, maybe to $100 for a large paint. And I sold every one.
I'll bet you still could.
Yeah, I bet, yeah. I might try the ones I have in my studio now.
Even half finished.
But, and it was so, and I never thought about how difficult it would be to make a living at art. I just didn't matter. I just wanted to do it.
Did you become associated with any other artists in Southern Tucson during that early time?
Not really. Dick Byers was my first person that I knew as a really good artist. And I was living in Sonoyta about 9 years then, and he moved there, and him and Dee built a house, and we became friends. And he would come over and critique my paintings, and I'd go down to his studio, and he'd let me watch him paint, which was really helpful. And then he would come in on my paintings. He would see something wrong and he would fix it. And some artists would, oh, you can't do that. But I really enjoyed it. I said, darn, I can see what he's doing. So I would, redo it my own way, but using what Dick taught me.
So did you know that he was, like a pretty high-level guy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But, that's the first really well-known art. In Sonoyta, there was a few few kind of amateur artists. And at the stakeout, they had one prime place behind the bar where you can always guarantee to sell a painting. And Channing, and I think her name was, I can't remember her name. That was their spot. And I took it over, and Channing was proud, but the lady was not happy. But I would sell every painting there at that spot on the bar.
So it looked like you got a reputation pretty quickly.
Yeah, in Sonoyta, yeah. Yeah, in Sonoyta, there was just wonderful people down there. Back then, there were 300 people in the whole county, and you knew everybody, you know. And everybody was so supportive of me, you
And
know.
so everybody had to have a Michael
Yeah,
stack
yeah.
in their house.
Yeah, and that was really nice. So I remember the first time we lived way out in the country. We were trying to be, you know, self-sufficient, be an artist, you know, grow all our own food and survive like that. So we lived off of $5 a week for a while. Then we ran out of money. But that's when I started selling. And I remember the first customer, the client came up from Tubuck. They heard about it. I had a friend down there, and a really wonderful lady, the director, told this guy I should go up there in Sonoyta. So he drove 10 miles out in the country to see my work. And there was a big tumbleweed. And it blew, and it got right in his pants. And I said, oh, no, this is terrible. But he ended up buying the painting. So.
You're known for your thin paint application,
Yeah.
if that's fair.
Yeah.
Has that always been your
Yeah, pretty much.
method?
You know, I just never liked really heavy paint. You know, I do heavy paint with the lights, but most of the darks and mediums are pretty light.
Well, certainly down in Sonoyta with the broad vistas and the incredible clouds. And
Yeah, that's where I love to learn to paint the sky. You know, I could see all over, 365 degrees where we lived.
So then, so you were in Sonoyta for how many years?
Kathy and I lived there for 10 years.
Okay, and that encompasses Tucson, correct?
No, that was Tucson, and then we lived a year in Patagonia, then moved to Sonoyta for 10. So a total of 11 years. And then I was invited to go to Taos. There were some people about my work in Tubuck had a house up here in Taos. So they didn't stay here in the winter, so they invited Kathy and I to come up and stay in a real fancy house. So there was a room I could make my studio, so what I did is I bought some cheap sheets and hung them all around so I wouldn't get paint on the wall and in the floor. And it was a little cocoon like that, but it was enjoyable, especially when it's cold and wintry out. You know, and I started painting. The first gallery was actually in Bisbee, Les Johnson. He started selling my work, and I felt really good. And then when I met this couple from Tubuck, they introduced me to the Schreibers, the original Schreibers. And then
Here in Taos.
yeah. And then Bill and Marge took over right away. So I only dealt with Bill and Marge, but I remember they were so nice, really good people. And I remember one time, the first time I had an art show there, I came up from Arizona and I did 26 paintings. And I said, nobody's going to show up, you know. So we drove by the gallery and there was like 10 people out front in the lawn chairs waiting in line. And I said, are they waiting for me? And they were. They opened the doors and I sold every painting.
So that's got to be the
15, 20 minutes.
So at some point in a young artist's career, you start feeling like there's something here. I must be pretty good.
I never thought I was good. I always thought I needed to improve. You know, until this day too, I feel, you know, there's always something more I got to learn. But yeah, that was a wonderful feeling. But I never thought the odds of 1 in a million of making a living from this. You know, that never came into my mind.
And so every time somebody gave you money for a painting, I'm amazed.
Oh, yeah. I said, if I can make as much money painting cars, I'd be happy. But the first year, I really surpassed that. You know, so each time I sold a painting, I'd raise it, you know, $5, $10, not very much. Some artists, you know, they jump up there. But I would always do it gradually. And I always admired and appreciated all of my people that brought paintings from me. You know.
Did your mother live long enough to see the success?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's great.
yeah. But yeah. But I
So
guess,
you were in Taos, and you stayed here.
yeah, for 3 years.
Okay.
And then we came back. Then Kathy and I got a divorce, and I moved to Bisbee, and I lived there off and on 5 years. I go from Bisbee to the Taos, and always painting, you know, in between. And I would paint up here, and then I'd paint Arizona, you know, Bisbee area. And the people in Bisbee were real supportive. So.
What are some of the similarities of the subject matter between Bisbee, Sonoyta, and up here in Taos?
Well, it's all southern Arizona different. You know, Bisbee's more kind of a red rock, deserty climate. Sonoyta was grass hills and open vistas, and Patagonia was kind of down in the canyon. And
up here is, you got the mountains, you
Yeah.
got Rio Grande.
yeah, and then when I lived in Tucson, I lived there for off and on. That's where I met my sweetie. I lived there for about 40 years, and I painted all over that country.
Is the light similar in up here in?
Well, they say, you know, the light up here is pretty intense, you know, because it's really clear because you're high up. We're 7,300 feet right here. So that's why I always got to wear a hat and long sleeves, because you can get burned really easily. And so I always wear a hat. Not that I'm, you know, ashamed of my bald head, but I
What
always
about
wear.
your glasses? Do you need to wear glasses as well?
Oh yeah, here, that's the one here. The doctor, I have macula, and he told me I should wear these here. So. But they help. No, but yes, so I really protect my eyes.
Does
Always
your
wear
palette
some-
change a little bit from southern Arizona to Taos?
I'm sorry? Yeah.
Does your palette change a little bit? from
No,
southern
basically for years and years and years, just the last few years, I started incorporating other colors. But basically, I just use 3 colors: yellow ochre, permanent alism, and ultramarine blue, French ultramarine blue, and white. You know, but I can mix all those colors to the darkest to the lightest. And then I started incorporating some cadmiums and burnt umber, burnt sienna.
Well,
earth
when you
colors.
were traveling around in your hippie van
Yeah.
for 6 months or a year,
Yeah.
was there any place else in the United States that you thought might afford the subject matter of the 2 places you spent most of your adult life?
Well, I really fell in love with Taos when I came up here in '69, first time, and I got to meet Andrew Dashberg and Lady Brett and Frank Waters, a number of artists, and they were just the nicest people, you know, really open and friendly and willing to share. But they're all gone now, so. But yeah, the light up here is special. I haven't been painting too much of Taos because I painted so much of it that now I'm painting. Yeah, I guess I'm still painting Taos. I think I painted so much of the desert in Tucson, which I love, you know. But after 40 years, I just decided it would be nice for a change.
Yeah, I think everybody who watches this wants to have a big thunderstorm over Sonoyta
Oh yeah.
with a Michael Stack painting.
Yeah, I remember those thunderstorms because there was nothing there to block it, no trees. But that was a good time.
Let me back you up, Michael, to
Yeah.
Frank Waters in 1969.
Yeah,
Give me a little bit more, because that was a time period in Taos that is pretty impressive with the people that were coming up
Yeah.
here from
Yeah.
New York.
it could have been in the early 70s
Yeah.
because, let me see, it could have been a little later because, you know, Schreiber, Bill and Marge had a party out in the Arroyo Seco. That's where Frank Waters lived. And so Frank Waters came over to the party, and there was some, you know, kind of wealthy people there, art collectors, and And I knew who Frank Waters was, but I didn't think he was that well known. So I got talking to him, and he was just an open, nice person. You know, he was pretty old then, but he was just a really good person, open and sharing. And when 69, when I came, we'd go to the old La Casina downtown, which is a local bar where everybody hung out. And Andrew Dashberg, every evening about 4, he would come in wobbling because he was so old. He'd sit at this one table and have his martini. That happened every day. You know, and I always remember, and I talked to him, and he was really nice. You know, most artists are pretty friendly, you know, especially the Tucson 7. All of those people were wonderful.
Well, let's hold that for our Tucson.
Oh, okay.
And so these guys here in Taos, they were like the next generation or generation after the original Taos guys from 1915 to 1930.
Yeah.
Did they still have that thread of connection?
I don't see it really much. And you rarely see any of those early paintings coming up for sale. They started the group when I lived here. I got in too late, but they were the Taos 7. And there was Gonski and Global and Daughters, a couple other people.
All quality.
Yeah, they're all
artists.
pretty good quality painters. But, you know, I never wanted to join a group, you know. I liked going to visit the group but not be a member. So I'll talk about that in Tucson.
Well, good. Well, let's go ahead. Let's get you to Tucson since that's where most of these people are.
Yeah. Well, back then, Kathy and I, we didn't have any money, so we left Riverside and we had to walk to Tucson.
I'm sorry?
We had to walk to Tucson because we didn't have any money.
That's a long walk.
Oh, I was, yeah, but we were young. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, good.
No, so we moved to, first we moved to Patagonia, spent a year there. Then we moved to Sonoyta and I spent 10 years there. And then I went to Taos and Kathy and I got a divorce. And then I moved to Bisbee, and then from Bisbee to Tucson. And then I pretty much that's where I met my sweetie in Tucson.
And so you moved to Tucson, you got a reputation, and where did you start showing? I assume the galleries were lining up for you.
Well, yeah, the first gallery was Stuart. You know, he invited me to show there. And that was, you know, I don't know what year it was. But I said, I would always love to be on that gallery, but I never felt I was good enough to approach him. So he approached me, so.
No, because Rosequist and Settlers are two.
Yeah, Rosequist was a good
I
gallery.
mean, those are two things that are
Yeah.
history-making galleries.
Yeah. Well, Sanders, I went to him one time and with my paintings, and he said, I don't think I can sell these. You should paint like Buck McCain. So I went home and I started painting real impressionistic. And I said, this is stupid. So I scraped it all off and started painting my old painting. And later on, when I got into Stewart's, Sander had the gallery next to him. And he said, I wish you would come and show it with me. Now, you remember when you told me I should paint like Buck McCain?
Have you ever told Buck that story?
I think I might have.
Well, he may get to see it now.
Yeah, I love Buck. He's a wonderful painter. But I didn't want to paint like him.
Yeah, good.
You know. But
So this must have been in the late 80s, early 90s?
let me see. We lived in Sonoyta from 71 to 80. We lived 3 years up here. Then I lived 3 years in Bisbee. And then I moved to Tucson.
Okay. But Michael Ewing was there at this time?
Yeah. We first met at Jim Kobe's, wasn't it Jim Kobe's art show, Mike?
The congressional show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we first met, and that's where I met Geraldine.
Geraldine was running it.
Yeah.
Remember that first year that she
Yeah.
ran it? She took it over from Lawrence Lee.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a wonderful time.
There were so many good artists in town at that time.
Yeah,
And the Tucson Seven
yeah,
were all getting coalesced, and Stewart was bringing that group together.
yeah.
And you got to meet all those.
Oh yeah, yeah. They would. A lot of them would come over to my studio. All of them except Tom Hill, which he lived down in Tubuck, and Howard Turpin wouldn't come over. But all the other ones would come over and critique my work, and I would go over to their studios, and they'd let me watch them paint. And they were just open people.
So who
really
had the
kind.
best critiques? Crowley?
Well, Crawley would come in and he said, "Oh, everything looks good." I said, "Don, you got to tell me what's wrong. You know, I don't want to say it looks good." He said, "Well, I can't see anything wrong with it." But Dick Byers and Bob Kuhn and
Right.
Ken Riley, yeah, he would come over and say, "Oh, you need to work on this a little bit. You need to, do this here." And that was really helpful.
And so they were actually,
Critiquing, yeah.
it was useful stuff.
And help me, yeah. Yeah, and I would critique, sometimes I'd critique another artist, and I'd tell them that, and they'd get all, upset. "Oh, you hurt my feelings," and stuff like that, but I welcomed it.
And how about Harley?
Harley, since we were so different in artwork, he really, but I loved Harley. We always get together. Once a month, all of us would get together at a restaurant.
Any favorite restaurant?
No, I can't really remember. There were a number of different ones.
Would they always have a piano so Harley could go play the piano?
Not very much. I can't remember that. And I know I was invited to join, but when Ken Riley dropped out, they wanted me to join this Seven, and I said, well, I couldn't take Ken's place, so I kind of declined. But it was a really honor to be asked.
Huge honor.
Yeah.
So what would be so the downsides of joining a group like CA or the Tucson Seven or any of those organizations?
Yeah.
What's your advice to an up and coming artist?
Well, if you enjoy it, join it. But I just never felt like I wanted to be with a group. I liked the group, but not part of the group.
Okay.
Visit the group. But so.
And so during your time in Tucson, you were selected as Artist of the Year.
Yes.
Through Friends of Western Art and the festival.
Yeah, the Mountain Oyster Club.
Yeah, and then the Mountain Oyster Club also made you an honorary member artist.
Yes. Yeah.
And we get to appreciate your artwork in the club all the time, in part because of that.
Yeah. Jack and Aileen Jack Goodman, he was a trooper. He got that thing going and kept it going.
So I think, Jack, that the art scene in Tucson would not be what it is today if it weren't
without for Jack. Yeah, I remember Jack would tell me he took Olaf Wiegors when he first came out here. They had an old Cadillac, and Jack would take him to all the old ranchers around and sell his paintings. And Jack didn't need to do that, but that was really nice of Jack. And Olaf appreciated that too. But Jack was always supportive of me. The first time he met me, he liked me. So I said, thanks.
And Aileen liked you as well?
Yeah. She didn't like me. The one girlfriend I had, she didn't like her. But when I met Susie, Susie and her became friends.
So Michael, you had some training from good teachers early on. What are some of the elements that you learned when you were first being taught that kept with you, that you kept applying to your artwork?
God, it was so long ago, and that was in high school. Mrs. Bennett and Mr. Strawn. I can't really remember, but they always encouraged me and taught me. But I can't remember exactly what it was.
So what would you say now is important to you when you approach a painting?
I just remember what I knew. Everything I know, I try to put it into it. And Dick Byers was a big help. He was the first time I met a famous artist, and he was really open and helped me and critiqued my work, and I got to watch him paint. And so that was really helpful. So.
Because he was quite a technician. I mean, he was.
Oh yeah, he was a
He had
master.
good training.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I really loved Dick Byers. He could paint anything, you know. And he was just good. I have a print of his in there too. It's just a beautiful print. He gave Susie and I. But
So that's is that the print of you in your studio?
yeah, that's a print that he painted when when we lived in Tucson. I mean, when we lived in Sonoyta together. And we had a simple little place. It was pretty, spiders liked it there, but we liked it. So, but it was real small. So when Dick and Dee went away, they invited us over to their house to stay. It was like this big mansion. It was really nice. I got to paint in Dick's studio, and it was really nice. It was a good time, you know.
Well, good. All right. So I think we're. Do we have more to talk about of Tucson? People you knew there.
Yeah,
Obviously that's going to be of interest. To
Yeah, everybody in the Friends of Western Art were wonderful. The people in the Mountain Oyster Club, they were just great. You know, Jack Goodman was wonderful.
So I think those two organizations, because they've been around for a long time,
Yeah,
are important in maintaining Western art in the forefront,
yeah,
nurturing new artists.
yeah, realistic traditional art. You know, a lot of people are going to modern art, and you know, I always knew I don't want to spend my money unwisely, because I knew throughout history, the art style only lasts maybe 20, 30 years, and then it switches over to another one. If you can look back on all the history, and it's been like
Right.
that. So I knew this wasn't going to last forever, so I invested wisely, you know, so I could look for the future. So now, since I lost my sweetie, since she was diagnosed with incurable cancer, not this March, but the March before, I just quit painting because I couldn't concentrate. I quit gardening. I just wanted to spend time with her. You know.
Well, if we can, I'd like to talk a little bit about painting,
Yeah.
the technical aspects of it.
Okay.
So a lot of your famous work is big, but you don't exclusively work big.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually work medium-sized and small.
Okay.
The big ones are pretty rare. You know, 24 by 36 is probably the largest. In my studio, I have some larger ones. They're unfinished. But what I was trying to do is use up all the material. You know, the stretcher bars and stuff. So I did big paintings. And I like them.
Yeah. How do you prepare your canvas, and what canvas do you
Well, I use Clausen's Define, a double primed, oil primed, and I try to use really good oils. I use my medium as, I used to make myself Damar varnish, turpentine, and God, it's been so long. Turpentine, Damar varnish, and
Oil.
yeah, poppy seed oil, or you know, stand oil.
Mm-hmm.
But and then I just got lazy and I just started using either pre-mixed or I like poppy seed oil
Okay.
because it dries slowly.
Good. And what color? What sort of wash you put on your canvas?
Yeah, I usually stain I never work on a white canvas. I usually stain it with I like burnt umber, burnt sienna, and yellow ochre. They're all warm earth tones, so they don't overpower. One time long time ago, I stained my can with Persian blue. So good. I never could get rid of it. I painted and painted and painted, and I kept bleeding through. So I finally went, get rid of this darn thing.
But when you do, what is that you're doing?
Oh, I'm not going to waste any more time on something I can't fix.
So that was a razor blade cutting.
Yeah, just cut it with the razor blade.
Oh.
Then undo it and reuse the stretcher bars. But I'll tell you the story. One time I was shown in Meyer Gallery. I had a big painting up there. And it didn't sell after 3 or 4 months. So I went up there and got it, and I thought, well, I'll improve it, you know. And I started working on it, and they started getting worse and worse. And, you know, after the second day, I just got in there, took the razor. A couple of days later, he calls from the gallery and said, we got a buyer for that painting. And I said, oh, it was a $10,000 painting. And I said, oh, you know, I already sold it. I didn't want to tell him I cut it up.
Good cover.
Oh,
Good
no.
cover. The subjects, obviously you've lived in these beautiful, beautiful places. You tend to go take a photograph and work from a photograph?
Yeah, I do sketches and photographs. I used to paint out a lot, you know, plein air, and I kind of gave that up years ago. When I lived in Bisbee and Sonoyta, I did a lot of plein air. But, you know, I tell these plein air painters, like Corot said, he's tired of seeing the fields cluttered with easels, you know. And so I just tell these plein air painters, I'd rather invite nature into my studio instead of going out there with her.
So when you see the photograph, you put it up on a monitor next to
Well, I
the
never
easel?
copy a photo. I use it for reference.
You put your vision over that photograph?
Yeah, I use it for reference, like the shape of the mountain, kind of lay of the land, but I always I never literally copy a photograph.
Do you have something you want to share with other artists about using computers or photography or tracing?
Well, I'm too old to do all that stuff, so I can't give any advice on that. Yeah, everything I did was just, you know, I used photographs, but I'd never copy them because the photograph lies to you. It's not accurate, you know, and Dick Briers taught me that. But I never used photographs even before I met Dick. And Dick could spot a person that copied a photograph in their painting, you know.
Because something was wrong.
Yeah, it was a copy of a photograph. And in a photograph, things are not right. You can tell by perspective, shadows, like that.
So when you start, you've got the photographic image. You go, I'm going to do the, you know, Sonoyta Valley or
Yeah.
something. How do you start sketching on the?
Yeah, I would go out there and visit it, and I'd do a sketch, take a number of photographs, come back to the studio and do maybe 6 or 7 little small pencil sketches of what I wanted. I would use that photograph and add my stuff. You know, usually those big storms, I rarely saw them out there. I mean, to photograph them. I'd see them a lot, but, you know, from what I learned from those storms, I would transfer to I'd take a picture of the, you know, Sonoyta Valley and incorporate my sky, and it's got to match with the shadows of the ground. You know, you can't have a dark, stormy sky and a really lit up ground. So.
How about depth in your paintings? How do you accomplish, you're a landscape painter, and these have lots of depth to them. How do you accomplish that depth?
Well, it's cooler on the horizon, and usually that's where I start my painting always, from the horizon in the sky up, and then the horizon from the ground down. But the distance is always created by cool colors. And then to really make those cool colors stand out, you want to have some warm colors close to you. And that really pushes it back. And the reason I use three colors because I'm too cheap to buy too many other ones.
Well, you got 5.
No,
now,
I'm just
don't you? You got 5
teasing.
now.
I'm just teasing. But yeah, that's what I tell people wherever, you know, they say, well, what colors do you use? And I said, yellow, red, and blue. You know, and that's you can make any color in the rainbow with those. And for, 30 years, that's all I used. And then I like I said, I started incorporating the cadmiums and the burn umbers. And I'm really careful with that Prussian blue. Tiny little bit.
It's expensive.
Yeah, because that's a stain. Boy, that's a bad color. But it's beautiful when you use it in small amounts.
So when you go to add your clouds, because your clouds are the best.
Oh, thank you.
How do you decide which cloud to add to the?
Well, I usually have a lot of pictures of skies with clouds in it, and you can't get that perfect sky, so I use that, and then I incorporate my design in it because I want everything to kind of flow into the middle, or even if at one vocal point. So when you look at it, you look at that, and then you notice everything else around it. But so I would always design my painting with that in mind. You know,
And
one point in that whole painting where you look at first, and then you can look at
that's
the
your
rest.
composition that
Yeah.
you're putting together in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about your brushes? Do you have favorite types of brushes? you like
I
to
just use the regular old Winsor Newton brushes. I use the stiff and the fine, the synthetic and the coarse. I use the coarse at first, and at first when I do a painting, I have that sketch, what I want to do. The canvas is stained and it's been dry for a couple of days. I just go in there with a brush, and if I spend more than 2 or 3 minutes on a canvas, that's too much. I do my design and let that dry, and that's the basic outline, So then when I come back, all I have to do is fill in that outline. Everything's there for me. But if I spend more than a few minutes, even on a big canvas, I'm not going to get it. So it's got to be really quick at first. And then the process slows down. To the very end, I'm going,
At what point in the canvas or during the process do you know that the painting reads correctly and it's going to work?
Probably over halfway through. I could do 10 paintings and 2 of them will never work, even today, So I know that doesn't work, so I take the razor blade to them, and the garbage dump must be full of my canvases. But yeah, 2 out of 10, I would say. I can't, and if I can't get it, and I'm not going to struggle with it, I'm not going to try to wait and try to improve it or something. I just get rid of it and go on to something else.
So you've got another 20 years.
Me?
Yes.
How about 2?
Just ask Turkman. You've got a lot of time.
I feel like I'm lucky if I have 2 years.
So what are you going to try to accomplish? What's the next generation of Michael Stack paintings going to look like?
Well, I think basically the same. I've always painted the same way since I was a kid. And I don't think I'm going to start painting impressionistic because I never felt like that. And I'll continue painting what I have, the paintings you saw out in the studio. I'll continue in that style because I feel comfortable and I like it.
When you paint a painting like that, many artists think that their life that they're living is the best life possible, in part because they can always go create something beautiful.
Yeah.
And live inside their painting as a beautiful place to live.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that?
Yeah. When I'm doing a painting, I said, I like to be here. I like to be in that painting. I always do a painting where I wouldn't do a painting if I didn't like if I didn't like to be there. So I always feel I would like to be there.
And you mentioned earlier you actually had figures in some paintings. When did that more or less stop?
Oh, when I first started in high school, I would study anatomy because I thought since I wasn't going to be a car designer, maybe I'd be a portrait painter. And in Riverside, I'd join the local art groups and show my people paintings, and everybody seemed to like them, but I didn't. I said, I don't want to do this. People are too finicky. That doesn't look like me. So, and I've always done landscapes, and that's what I love the most. So when I decided to make a living, I should concentrate on what I love the most.
It feels like a combination of integrity and stubbornness.
Yeah, I think so. I just like what I do, so I do it. I know when I was doing horses, I thought I'd be a Western artist. That probably lasted maybe a year. I did a series of people riding horses and Indian teepees and Indians and stuff.
That's a tough crowd to please.
I'm sorry?
That's a tough crowd to please.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't live that life, so why should I paint it? So And I was doing it for sales, you know. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but it was basically to sell. So when I realized that, I just turned to regular landscape. One time I had this painting that had a bunch of little horses in it, and I painted them out. And the painting looked so much better. You know, got rid of those horses. And I love horses, but not to paint them.
So what's the advice that Michael Stack today would give 20-year-old Michael Stack?
Don't take up this profession. That's what I tell young people. No, I'm sorry. Just, you know, you just got to believe in yourself and work hard and don't give up. You know, just keep at it. And, you know, most people give up on it because it gets really tough.
Artists take a lot of rejection.
I'm sorry?
Artists get a lot of rejection.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You have to live with that. But that doesn't bother me. It's only if you're not, you don't feel rejected, you know. But you know, and when I started, it was a good time, you know, the Western art, the people in Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas, they were buying Western art. And so I just started on the end of that. But I had some really good years from, you know, people from Texas and, I mean, all over. I can't say just from that. But most of the buyers in Taos would come from Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas to buy art here.
Well, it sounds like it's been a good life.
Yeah, it has. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I met some wonderful, wonderful people I never would have met if I wasn't painting. You know, some influential people. I sold paintings one time when I lived in Bisbee. I broke up with this girl and I was all depressed. And Jack Goodman, he was the Secretary of Treasury at that time. I can't remember his name. He was going to Douglas to check out the mine down there. And Jack told him to stop by in Bisbee and see me. And so he was still the Secretary of Treasury. And I lived in this little miner's shack there off of, I forgot the name of the road, 37 steps up. So you couldn't be drinking on those steps. But he came up there, and the only place I had to display the painting was on my bed. So I put like 6 paintings out there for him to choose from. And it was his daughter and his son. They were probably in their late teens. And they just thought it was wonderful. They're here, they are in this artist studio. And so I put these paintings out there for him, and I can't remember his name. I feel bad. And he said, "Oh, I'll take all of them." I said, "Oh, my God." That cheered me up out of my heartbreak.
It would help.
Yeah.
And I'll assume that Jack also oversaw your first entry to the Mountain Oyster Art Show.
Yeah, Jack was wonderful.
And you put in 3, and they were all accepted and all sold.
Yeah.
And then you sold everything you put into that show ever since.
Yeah. I had the record for names for a painting, and Howard beat me by 5 points, or 5 names, Howard Turpinning. But
Well, Michael had, last year he had a painting in there that had almost 2 pages of
really?
names.
Good for you, Michael.
Yeah, it reminded me of the old days.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Isn't that nice?
Is there any last comments that you'd like to make? Advice for upcoming artists?
Well, I think I already gave it. Just stick with it. And it's hard work,
You did.
a lot of rejection, but just got to believe in yourself and just keep working.
You gotta love what you're doing.
Yeah, I love what you're doing, but don't ever believe that you're doing good work. Because once you say, "Oh, this work looks great," you'll never go any further.
Do they need to go to art school?
No.
Because some of the Tucson 7 guys said, "Don't do it, it'll ruin you."
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. If you go to art school, usually you'll come out being an art teacher. You know. It just keeps cycling around. But I think if an artist, the Scottsdale School of Art has some really good classes that you could study with real artists. I don't know if it's even in existence. But if you can, what I did is I read a lot of books. You know, I'd read all the time. I never like to refer myself as an artist. I say I'm a painter. And up here they say, "Oh, do you paint houses or cars?"
That's it.
And I said, "I paint trees and clouds." But I don't like to call myself an artist. I'm a painter.
A painter.
Yeah.
Interesting.
How about you, Michael?
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like it makes you more the craftsman that you really
Oh,
are.
I know. Yeah.
Artists might raise you up to
Yeah.
a level that you, like you say,
Oh, I know.
if you
Yeah.
thought you were an artist, maybe you don't have to learn anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Do you know any artists?
I'm sorry?
Do you know any artists?
Oh, yeah. I guess I'm an artist, but I don't never refer to myself as an artist.
Sure, but if they were the same, who in that group would you say is an artist?
Oh, the Tucson Seven?
Oh,
Every one of them.
so they were painters and illustrators, and somehow they made the jump
Yeah.
to a fine artist.
Yeah, and
Not
it's
everybody does.
because of these people from those states that started collecting art, Western art, realistic art, traditional art. Because that before them, it was gone, and it was those cowboy artists that brought it back. You know, the
I
very
think,
first
Michael,
one.
that word artist kind of represents to us what happens outside of us.
Yeah.
That people
Yeah.
refer to us as artists, and you appreciate that.
Yeah,
But for us, we always want to become, if we're an artist, we
painter.
want to become that better artist.
Yes.
And where
Yeah,
being
that's
a
true.
painter is.
yeah. I think once you like what you do, you might as well just quit. You know.
So you need to keep that humility, that
Yeah,
fear
yeah.
of failure.
Oh, yeah. You know, every time I finish a painting, I say, God, I could do better than this. But it's good enough to, and I sell it, and then I do another painting, and I said, well, I guess it's okay to put out there. But each time you want to get better, you know, better than the last painting.
So Shoefly would say occasionally, one of his drawings, he'd get up and he would say, this is better than I can do. It wouldn't happen all the time, but occasionally he would do a drawing that he didn't think he was capable of doing.
Well, when I finish a painting, I'm not totally satisfied, but I know it's all I could know to put in it, and I don't really see my paintings until I'm away from 'em for 3 or 4 months, and sometimes I say, damn, I did a good job on that.
So you like walking into a home and seeing your artwork on somebody's house?
Oh yeah,
On the wall?
yeah, it's really nice, and I remember almost every painting, not the real early ones, you know, way
You want
back
to forget those.
the what?
You may want to forget those.
Well, they were the best I could do, but when I look at them, they weren't too, you know. But the people like them, so that's what's important,
It is.
you know.
It is.
You know,
What are
'cause-
some of the nicest compliments that an owner of one of your paintings can give you?
God, I can't remember. I had a number of them, but I can't really distinctly remember.
I'm just trying to train the future generation of connoisseurs.
You know.
What should they not say?
Oh, I love my painting. And I usually say, that looks really nice. I did a good job.